As I mentioned earlier, last night we lost a legend. We lost a great Muslim leader. Uh, Muhammad Ali was really he was an example of what a true American Muslim is. He took stands and he made all American Muslims proud. We want to take a few minutes to pay tribute to him. And I know Levent knew him personally because Muhammad Ali actually had a connection with this Islamic Center. And I want Levent to share his thoughts, and this is a tribute to the one and only Muhammad Ali. Thank you so much, and enjoy your evening.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. This is a really great event, and it's also a really great time in history to have, probably in our generation and in our lifetimes, everybody. Muhammad Ali was the most recognizable, famous person on the globe, probably, like no one else. He did so many things, internationally, and his fame in boxing, it was all, like today, if you listen to the news and you watch sports programs, it's all about him, his quotes, his great achievements, and the amount of superlatives of greatness and of generosity is like more than the thesaurus can ever supply. So I'm not going to try to recreate any of those stories or his quotes or anything, but I just want to draw a line between the most famous man of our generation, of our lifetimes, and the Islamic Center and how he affected me. So I'm going to try to contain the amount of detail, try to get to the main points, and try to give as much information as possible, but at the same time just highlights. Okay, so why would Muhammad Ali, after he tried to retire many times, why would he come to the Islamic Center? He had a beautiful home in Hancock Park, like within our neighborhood, but after he retired, he wanted to give back. His sports career had come to an end, and immediately he wanted to segue into doing something for Islam. So of all the mosques that he had to choose, he chose our mosque here because of its transcendent qualities. Okay, we have, since 1952, we have always pioneered huge changes within the Muslim community, transformational initiatives, and part of that, whether consciously or unconsciously, Muhammad Ali came to our center and said, I want to do a speaking tour. And so he wanted to do a speaking tour, he wanted to go speak at different venues and all that, and the center thought it would be fitting that he would have an escort from the Islamic Center. And because of the youth support, and I was probably 21, 22 at the time, they selected me for some reason or another. But I had the good fortune of being with him on the speaking tour. So part of my function was to, affirm the place, help him with entering the venue that he was going to speak at, and helping him to exit. And so you might think, well, what's the big deal about that? Well, if you don't do it right, he'll be trapped for hours on end because he'll be swamped, and he can't do autographs for everybody, pictures for everybody. So it had to be done in a very precise way so that he could give the benefit to the people without being trapped for hours on end. So basically his entrance routine was just to beeline it to his seat and not to interact with anybody. And then on the exit routine, he would give the talk. And on the exit routine, he was brilliant. So my job was always to gather all the kids. So as soon as his talk ended and as soon as he stepped away from the podium, he would be starting to get swamped. So the only way that you could contain adults is to say, hey, you know what? He's going to do something special for your children. So we would cordon off an area, have all the children come, and it would be in an area where he could exit. So because otherwise he'd be trapped autographs, photos, and things. So that was my job. He would do magic tricks for the kids, entertain them. They would be happy to no end, and then boom, we would be out. So those are like some of the logistical things of why I was there. And there was a lot of interesting things. When I was with Muhammad Ali, my name wasn't Levent, it was Levert, okay? And Levert in the black community refers to many musicians. So he couldn't quite get the Levent, and it was Levert. So, and there was a special thing about my name, which I'll come to later. So that really wasn't the special thing. I mean, he obviously wooed the audience. He was entertaining. He was funny. He gave context to what he did as a boxer. Why was he so flamboyant? Why was he so, self-aggrandizing and all that? And basically, he would tell, at this stage of his career, he'd say, you know what, it's the entertainment value, it's the persona he wanted to give. He wanted to be the best, not only in the ring, but outside the ring, and he proved that he could do that. But in his new phase of life, he said, you know what, all that's an act. He didn't, after boxing, you didn't hear him proclaim he was the greatest or whatever, because he wanted to serve. He wanted to take his illustrious career and serve Islam. So the most intriguing thing about each speaking engagement wasn't really the speaking engagement itself. It was the ride home, okay, and the ride back to the Islamic Center. So every speaking engagement, he would drive, but he wouldn't drive straight to the Islamic Center. He would go through neighborhoods, the urban neighborhoods of Los Angeles, where the poor are. So his basic thing was, he had a white convertible Rolls Royce. He would put the top down, and he would just go on a street. He would see a lot of people, and he would just lay on the horn, put his fist in the air, and then everyone's just not figuring out what's this Rolls Royce doing. Coming down the street, a guy has his big fist in the air, and then immediately, when people realized that was Muhammad Ali, their hero, you could look back and it was like a street parade, a celebration that this man is remembering his community and is giving joy to everyone down these streets. And this would be each and every time. And it was he didn't have to do it. He wasn't getting publicity. This is him, reflecting within himself, wanting to give back. And it was a joyous thing to see. A couple funny things. We'd be stopped at a stoplight, and there's this lady. She's probably, struggling in life. She's looking straight ahead with a very stern look on her face, and he would roll down the window and he'd honk, and he says, he would use a little bit of vulgar language like the N word. So he would say, "What N made you mad?" And then she would go looking at him and then, it's Muhammad Ali, and she would just be hysterical in joy and laughter. So he would always want to give people pleasure, and even it was hilarious because a lot of times he would just fly down the freeway at 90 miles an hour. He got pulled over by a police officer and never got a ticket. He would charm his way out of it, and believe it or not, he had some autographs in his glove box, and he goes, I really support the police, and he would pretend to sign it. It was already signed. He would give it to the police officer, and he was home free. So he knew how to work the system. It was amazing. In '82, he had a car phone, and he would say, "Oh, I was just on the phone, and I have a family situation." He would make up stuff, and he'd get out of every ticket and stuff. So that's the amazing thing about him and wanting to serve the community. And a side note to that is that he would say in his talks about how his home in Hancock Park was a magnet for all kinds of situations. And mostly it would be people who are in distress, desperate, and he would try to help them as best as he could, depending on what the circumstance or if it looked like a con or whatever. But one of the things, and one of my jobs was, when someone was interested in Islam, he would send them over to Levert, and I had the job of, introducing him to materials, teaching him or her how to pray, and all that. So that was very an honorable role for me, and really helped me a lot in my development as a young Muslim and for my Islam. So, all he wanted to do was to give information, and it was amazing. He had a duality as just a person, an individual. So when you're in the car, he's like quiet, reserved, not saying much. He's not interested in a lot of small talk or anything. But when it came to showing himself to people in his public life, he would just explode with charisma and excitement and things. And at this stage in his career, he just wanted to serve, help people, and I think the concept of he wanted to afflict the comfortable and comfort the afflicted. So I guess he thought I was comfortable because he mercilessly was teasing me the whole time, okay? And I don't know what it was, but the one phrase, and I don't really feel bad about it, I'm not traumatized, but the one phrase is, Levert, you are as dumb as you look. Okay? And I even think Kamal Hamdan got some of that one time when he asked Kamal to move his car here at the Islamic Center. But it was like every trip I had at least one of those things when I didn't do something he wanted perfectly or whatever. But, he obviously thought I was, comfortable, so he wanted to make me feel uncomfortable. And so a couple of the funny things, because my only duty there was to help him with the people who came to his house and just to tease me to death and have a good time in that way. So we'll be sitting at a lecture, and he has lightning quick hands. So I was sitting there, and I'm sitting next to him, and he goes over and he flicks the person in front of me, okay, in the ear on the other side, and then goes back like this. And so the people would be looking at me and goes like, "What the hell are you doing? Who do you think you are?" And he would just kind of like embarrass the heck out of me. Another thing is that his a two-door coupe Rolls Royce, so he had another assistant like from Algeria that would accompany him, and this Algerian gentleman just didn't like the fact that I was there. He thought he wanted to be the main guy with Muhammad Ali. So every time he was making his way to the back seat, Muhammad Ali in a strategic location would start tickling him in the backside. So, and every time the Algerian gentleman thought, "What are you doing here?" So I was at the butt end of his jokes, and and I didn't really mind that or whatever, and I had no clue or concept that who I was with, like this stature of a person. It's just when you get him in his presence, he's just another person. He's obviously flamboyant and charismatic, but it was just a big transformational change for me to be in his presence, that he's a Muslim. So final thoughts here is that Allah has given us this gift of the world's most famous man. And it's not anything that we did. Allah is going to take care of our religion. We don't have to worry about our religion. We just have to worry about ourselves. So there's some kind of miracle here, in my view, that he passes just before Ramadan. And now Ramadan is upon us. And so we have to use this person, his life, his legacy, for doing God's work. Islam is going to, be good. It's us that are in question. So, as we go through the month of Ramadan, we should really reflect on when we read the Quran and we say our Taraweeh prayers, there's a cause and effect relationship that we have faith and we do righteous deeds. And one of my personal struggles is that we have these great months of Ramadan, prayer, we recite the whole Quran, or whatever, but I don't see the month of Shawwal as a explosion of activity, as an explosion of, contribution to society, as a earth-shaking experience that we each had in Ramadan. But I think what we should do is try to emulate a life, a legacy of Muhammad Ali. It will be talked about for several months. So let's invest and let's do our acts of worship, our acts of faith, but it has to be coupled with righteous deeds. There has to be a cause and effect relationship between our work and our worship and our work and stuff. So I think this is a great opportunity for us to make this the best Ramadan ever. Assalamu alaikum.